Now, the Fancy Food Show is really important. It's important for food service operators. It's important for supermarkets, for any retail grocery, because here's where we see the trends emerging. And in fact, one of those trends that we saw, a little sprinkling of probably about 3-4 years ago right here was about the whole plant-based movement. So with me is Michele Simon, Executive Director of the Plant-Based Foods Association. So you've got to be really excited. I mean, the association is now 3 years old. You've got all these major companies who have come in as members. So from your perch, when you see everything that's going on plant-based, what is getting you the most excited?
Well, the innovation is really the most exciting part. Some of us have been talking about plant-based eating for a while. It's not that the concept is new, but what's new is now we have these companies really creating wonderful, great-tasting alternatives to conventional meat and dairy products. So no longer do consumers have to sacrifice to cut back on their meat and dairy consumption. And that's another really exciting aspect of it, too. We're not talking about just a niche audience anymore. Right? It's really gone mainstream.
So step me through this. I mean, I remember when I was in college, and my father, who's in the food business, sent me a case of soy burgers, which promptly my roommates and I threw away after eating it once. So we've gone from alternatives that were not very tasty, that were kind of ugly looking, they really didn't look like food, to where we are now. How did we get here? How are we now having these products that are delicious, certainly more nutritious, and attracting a mainstream audience?
Right. Well, it's definitely not your father's veggie burger anymore, right? So I think what we're really seeing is sort of a next generation of companies that really are interested in giving the consumer a great taste and texture from an experiential level. So, for a long time, we've known that there are important societal reasons, if you will, right? To eat more plant-based. For
and
health reasons.
Yep,
that's always been the number one motivator for people. But now, with climate change being more of a factor, we know that meat reduction is really critical for that, and we know young people are more interested in those broader societal factors. So, but at the end of the day, the food's got to taste good.
Yep,
right?
That has to be number one.
That's right. So, so what we're seeing now is companies realizing, okay, it's not enough to just, educate people. Right. You got to show them. You got to,
you got to feed them.
Their taste buds. It's all about the taste buds. So I think that's what we're seeing is the recognition, and that's how you take this industry from being a niche, small market, into the mainstream, by not having it be about hitting people over the head about why, but rather just give them great tasting alternatives, and then they will naturally gravitate towards these foods.
Is part of it also, because when I'm talking to all these companies, it's a new kind of CEO. It's a new kind of food entrepreneur who's coming that's really looking at health, wellness, the good of society, transparency. I mean, all of that versus, and I say this respectfully, some of the CEOs of these large companies who, we need to be in plant-based, so let's
jumping
do this over here.
Right. Well, it's an interesting time. I mean, we've definitely seen. First of all, we want to acknowledge the companies that have been doing this work for a long time and have really paved the way. And those companies are still in the market and are also now.
Look at Tofurkey.
Great example.
I got to say that I probably brought Tofurkey on the Today Show 30 years ago, 35 years ago, and everybody, scrunched up their noses and stuff like that. And it's still out there. Still out there.
And expanding into Walmart, and again, like these companies that have been doing it are now also expanding into the mainstream. So, but I think what we're seeing with the sort of new generation of companies is, again, this kind of raising of the bar. And this idea that we're not going to just kind of accept the status quo, but raise the bar for everyone. And also, it's sort of this new generation of companies doing that, along with the new generation of consumers that, again, are really care about where their food comes from, aren't just going to do the same old, same old. And then you were asking about, what about the large companies that have been around a while? Maybe.
Well, look at Tyson. Coming out with their plant-based and so on.
Let's be careful though about the terminology we're using with Tyson.
Okay.
So, what Tyson has done is come out with what really is a blended product,
Right.
and they use that phraseology too. So, and that idea has been around, the idea of reducing meat with either
Whether
a
it's
mushroom
mushrooms
blend
or
or
cauliflower,
pea
peas.
protein,
Yep.
right? But it's not plant-based, and it's
Right.
really important for the Plant-Based Foods Association for a consumer to understand that distinction. And we actually even have a certification to define what plant-based means, and it means 100%. And we are a little concerned when we see the media
Right.
picking up on an announcement like Tyson's using the phrase plant-based. We want to make sure the consumer understands what that phrase means. It's fine. Of course, companies are going to look to get into the marketplace.
Right,
That's what
right.
they do.
Yeah.
But we know that there is a consumer who is really looking for a 100% plant-based alternative, even if they're having meat other times of the week.
The other thing that I'm really excited about is when we think about plant-based. Probably 5 years ago, we were talking about replacements or alternatives for hamburgers and hot dogs and bologna and stuff like that. But now we're seeing plant-based in every category in the store,
Right.
whether it's snack foods, just the proliferation is fabulous.
Right.
And also what I like that you just said, it's not about everybody going vegan.
Right.
It's just being able to, whether it's for societal reasons, whether it's health reasons, having an alternative sometimes.
Right.
It doesn't have to be every time.
No.
And also, I happen to, even though you probably don't like this, but I happen to like those blends. With the mushrooms in particular, because it's almost the training for people's palates that they can have a burger
Right.
that's 25% mushroom and say, oh wow, that's not bad, and we wean them
Right.
over to plant-based.
Sure. Yeah, they can be an introductory opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it philosophically. I just want to make sure we're clear on what we call them.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what are you excited about at this show as you're walking up and down the aisles?
Yeah,
and I
well-
know the show just opened, so you haven't seen
That's okay.
all 2,500 exhibits
Not quite yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so much international influence, of course. I mean, I was actually in the German pavilion, and there's a company there called Happy Cashew that is making cashew-based cheeses, and they're right in the heart of the German pavilion, right?
Wow.
And so, we were talking about some of the naming issues that are coming up for them, just like they are here. And so that was fun to see that, and then now, of course, that company wants to have a presence here in the U.S.
So let's talk about the naming issue and the legality for a moment. Huge controversy where you're seeing people arguing about if they can use the word milk on plant-based milks, whether or not they can use the word meat, on plant-based meat. Where's this all going to shake out? And what's the downside or the upside for the consumer?
Well, let's be clear on who the controversy is with. There isn't a consumer problem here. There isn't
Right.
some consumer confusion or consumer outcry. This is really coming,
So
unfortunately.
the consumer really doesn't think that cows are
Imagine.
coming out with almond milk?
Yeah, I know. Surprisingly, no. We haven't heard anyone complaining about that. What we have is really the milk industry and now the meat industry just being upset about what we've just been talking about, which is the rise and success of these industries and these companies that are really getting a lot of press, of course, right?
Yep.
I mean, Beyond Meat in the press almost every day, it seems, and so it's threatening to them. Even though, we're talking still a very small part of the market. Now our market is growing a lot faster than theirs, so that may be part of the concern. But as far as where it's shaking out, look, we know that as long as our members, and all of them are, using clear differentiators, qualifiers, right? No one's trying to fool anyone. We're trying to, communicate clearly to the consumer that these are plant-based alternatives. Then there isn't a problem. And we know that over time, the policies will catch up to where we are in the marketplace. And, we've been lobbying vociferously against both federal and state level efforts around this, and we're mostly winning. And even if we lose in a few places in the short term, we know we will win in the long term.
So you mentioned you were in the German pavilion. What are you hoping to walk away from the Summer Fancy Food Show with?
Well, we've got a couple of panels also going on today and tomorrow. So obviously we want to educate more people in this community about the growth of our industry, and we want to welcome any new companies that are here into the plant-based family, and also just, of course, expand plant-based into the specialty foods industry, because there's lots of compatibility here.
Well, you're doing a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and
Thank
keep
you.
keep up the good work, and get us some more plant-based delicious foods out there.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.